Okay, it's Monday. So every Monday I'm gonna do lick of the week. I'm gonna show you some of my favorite licks. I don't usually play licks traditionally when I think in music, but of course, you know, every player has some of their favorite licks, some of their concepts that they expand on through life, and I have a few of these. And so every Monday I will have lick of the week. So of course I want to start with one of the things that I've used. If you listen to work that I've done, my own albums and a lot of stuff on guest solos on other albums and you name it, this goes back to early 90s, and I came up with it as a mix of two ideas. The guitar player for Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, he used to play a thing, I think way back in the 80s, that was sort of sliding between two notes. And in the jazz rock world, there's something, I think they call it pedal notes, meaning you go, you stay on one note, so between those two ideas, I came up with an idea of playing three notes in the same finger position all the time, which is very simple. The octave and the fifth. So if you're in a minor, the cool thing about this lick is that it sort of moves a little bit in and out of the key depending on the notes where you place it. The trick is very simple. You play, if you start from the E, you play up. When you land on the high note, you slide to where you want to be. And when you land there, you go back down. So if I want to play, and you can, of course, slide anywhere you want. So whenever you land on a high string, you go back three notes, the same fingering. And when you land on the low note, you slide to where you want to go next time. So what I like about it is that it's a beautiful sounding, but still kind of freaky kind of lick. And you can make long jumps, and it sounds very alien to me. So that's lick of the day this Monday. See you in a week. Okay, it's Monday, so time for lick of the week. And this week I thought we should do something that I don't see a lot of players use. It's a pretty cool technique that you can use in pop, funk, and rock, and metal, and I mean any kind of style. It all depends on the sound and the attitude that you use. And it comes from, I would say, slap bass funk style. So you have your, that kind of vibe. I use two fingers, like a claw, where I go. For a little funky kind of Stevie Wonder kind of vibe. A typical slap bass riff used to be, which is very simple. It's just a loose string and a hammer on, and then you hammer on where you want to be next, and then play the note after. So it's easier to play it faster because it sounds weird when you play it slower. So if you mute the strings a bit, you get it pretty cool. And this works for bluesy kind of stuff. Any kind of. Even within chords. So the same principle, depending on if you play single notes or if you use two notes. So now, of course, I'm using a clean sound, which is cool. You can get Aerosmith kind of funky. Country stuff. And then, of course, if you add distortion, you get a Van Halen-y kind of vibe, and a lot of I don't know if even Zakk Wylde did some of this stuff where he mixed his chicken picking style into it. So let's try it with some distortion. So with distortion, you can still use the fingers. Or the pick and just go. And I use this technique even inside of solos. I like solos to I like all the extra noise within a solo. Because you can play something like, or you can slide in and use this technique and slide out. Where you sort of bring more attitude to the same note. And for songwriting, it's a really cool trick for kind of some of the classic. So that's the lick of the week, and I'll see you in another week with a crazy one. Hey, it's Monday, so time for Lick of the Week. And of course, losing Eddie Van Halen is still a huge shock for so many of us. So it only feels right to do something again in honor of him. I've had the opportunity to pay my respect on Swedish radio and TV and the YouTube video I did about him, and it feels good because it's sort of a way of saying thank you and farewell to the most important person in my professional life. Truly owe him everything. So I'm gonna show a couple of techniques, tricks, licks, based on things that he did that I've made not into my own thing, but I've used them in a different way maybe for various albums. And basically he had a really cool thing playing with harmonics. Simple ideas like playing an E and getting different notes, different harmonics based on just staying on one note and hitting different frets. And I used this technique maybe for the first time on an album I did for the singer of the Tubes, Fee Waybill, back in '96 on his second solo album. I play on a song called Dying of the Light. And I use this technique where I play over the chords with something like, and it follows the chords. It's on Spotify, I think, so you go and check it out. I love using this technique for solos in ballads, and because you can actually do a simple trick to create a lot of emotion. If you hit an E and just place your finger on top of the string, don't push it down, just place it on top of it, you get a beautiful octave harmonic. Which is very beautiful in a solo with a lot of nerve and passion. If you hit one beautiful high note and you add the little octave, it sounds almost like the guitar is crying. It's a beautiful sound. And of course it works in any style of music. It all depends on the energy of the song and the solo that you're playing. Another simple classic Eddie Van Halen trick that he often used was just going, again, putting your finger on top of the strings, and there's a lot of simple ways of doing it. So I play a lick and I add the finger to it. And depending on the intonation of the guitar, you can find these cool little harmonics anywhere, and you can combine them with natural harmonics. So it's a simple but very effective sound that I use a lot. It's all about expressions. In the end of the day, that's it. Just brings a little cool attitude to the notes you play. So again, small tribute to the master of the masters, Eddie Van Halen, and thank you, Eddie, for everything. It's a shock that you're gone, but thank you for 42 amazing years of my life with all the guitar playing and all the music. So have fun and listen to Van Halen, practice the cool licks, and let's make sure that the legacy of Eddie lives on forever. See you next Monday for another lick of the week, and see you in a day or two with the next video about something else. I got something cool coming. See you soon. Bye. It's Monday, so time for Lick of the Week. It's October 19th, so we're getting closer to winter here in Sweden. Perfect time for us to sit inside and practice. Not talking about you people living in Florida and other beautiful places where it's still warm. We hate you. No, we don't. We're jealous. So this week it's a combination of lick, but also very good technique to practice. It's great for practice finger movements, and from this idea you can develop other ideas. I've used this as a base for many of my ideas over the years. And it sounds a little bit weird, but it's a great practice. You can do this in front of the TV with no amp, so it doesn't sound so annoying. And it's this. Weird notes. Second, fourth, and fifth fret going up, and then from the other way. And then you move it up, sort of almost like a diminished scale. So if you start in this position, when you move, when you change the chord, you move up 3 half notes. And when you go to that note, you change position and you move that one up 3 notes. And then change again and move that one up. And it's a great way of teaching your fingers odd movements. Like you see, I have to move my whole arm quite a bit to do that, which is good for the exercise of the arm. So the odd one is between these 2 fingers, because you have to go very unnatural. You would normally feel better to do this, but this one you have to. So I'll show you a few cool licks and good exercises with these notes. That for me, I've developed ideas from it, because first of all, you learn how to stretch your fingers, and you do sliding and sliding while changing your finger positions. So I'll show you a couple of examples of licks and practice ideas, and I'm doing this to click track. Practice them in different tempos to the click track, because that makes a huge difference. So let's start with lick number 1. See, I how the fingers and the arm have to move that way. So the second one is a bit tricky because now I play it like an arpeggio, and it's a little odd in the meter in the way you count, but again, great practice in arpeggio and sliding. So I'm doing, and it goes like this if you practice to a click track. Okay, so the next one, based on the same idea, I play almost the same lick. It's a little shorter, so it makes a little bit more sense in the timing. But this also means that you have to slide in a different position. You land there, but then you slide on. So it takes a little different kind of thinking, but it's got a good flow. And so here it is, to a click track. I play it a little faster. Find the tempo that works for you. Okay, the next one is the same idea, but it's getting a little bit more complicated because we're adding notes, so it's a little odd in how you count it. But again, good practice for pick techniques, for fingering techniques, for sliding techniques. And to the click track, it sounds like this. I've showed you before in my licks the idea where I play 3 notes that I slide around. That kind of technique. This is based on that idea, but it's also to practice how the finger settings and stuff and sliding techniques. And the tricky part about it is that you slide your way all the way up, and then you have to go down, and since you're going 3 half notes up and 3 half notes down, you really need to separate your brain from what you're playing and where you land and where you're supposed to slide. So you need to concentrate on the click track and hitting the notes clean, and then where you slide after. Start practicing it slower and then build up to the speed, because it's kind of tricky for the fingers. Unless you're a professional, then it's easy for you. So for many years I've used this technique, these tricks, to build a lot of other licks and techniques that I use. The one I've showed you before that I often use, where I slide around with the 3 notes, but also bending, kind of bending lick where I go up the neck in like. So I bend and slide my way up. So a lot of stuff comes from this basic idea. It takes some time to get used to it, but it's one of those door openers. You know, you start getting a hang of it, and it makes other things easier. So a little longer lick of the week this week, but Good stuff to practice. Hope you enjoy it. See you in a week. Bye. Hey, it's Monday, time for Lick of the Week. This week, I want to show you some ideas about using open strings for licks to solos, to songwriting, ways of creating cool riffs, using a capo in which is one of these things you can put anywhere on the neck, to use open strings in different positions. So here we go. You've all heard the way that AC/DC uses the classic thing. So we're going to expand on that idea of just using an open G string and just build it around the open string. And you can play it on two strings. Very cool within solos to add that kind of what you play. I'm not showing you the lick by itself, I'm just showing you the idea for a technique. I want you to come up with your own ideas based on it. But they're cool in major keys, in minor keys. Major key. So there's a million ways of using them, and you can do it very simple and just go. And you can add double notes to it. I'll show you some ideas where you put a capo somewhere on the neck, and you can actually, depending on the key of the song, you can move the idea around. So I got a capo and I put it on the 12th fret, meaning I moved everything I normally play up an octave. On this guitar, because I have the true temperament frets and the Evertune, my intonation is perfect even when I play up here. So without the frets, you might have to tweak your tuning a little bit. So a lot of the ideas that you play, you can actually now move up a whole octave. So for songwriting, for solos, it's a really cool color you can add to your playing. It's of course harder to do this live, unless you have easy access to a capo and it works out fine. But for studio work, I use this technique quite a lot. I for rhythm parts and for lead parts, because it's on this guitar with the frets, these weird bent frets that make the intonation perfect. I can even play open strings, the traditional open string chords, but I can play them an octave up and get a really cool 12-string kind of sound going. I'll show you how it sounds like. So I've changed to a sound that's cleaner. It's got a little breakup in it, but basically what I'm doing is putting the capo on the 12th fret, and you can play all of these beautiful traditional open chords an octave up. Again, easier because I have the true temperament frets, of course. But it's a very beautiful sound. So if you come up with a riff, a song idea you like, play it where you normally play the open chords, put a capo on the 12th, and double the same thing, and you get actually a very beautiful 12-string kind of sound. I sometimes even I like it better than a traditional 12-string because it's the little imperfection in how you play makes it a little more wide sounding. So it's a really cool technique. So, open string licks is the lick or licks of this week, and I'll see you in a week with more fun stuff. Ciao. Hey, it's Monday. Time for Lick of the Week. Or in this case, maybe Trick of the Week or Technique of the Week. This is what I would call, and I guess most people would call, the Jimi Hendrix style of playing rhythm and lead parts, sort of mixed together. So if you take a simple chord progression like Jimmy would play something like this. You sort of embellish on each chord. If you play like an E major, there's so many notes that you can play, usually with 2 or 3 notes at the same time. They all fit over that simple E chord. So it's more about experimenting with just playing one chord and see what you can find around it. And try to figure out things with open strings. You'll come up with a lot of cool things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you one of the most famous, I guess maybe it's like children's rhymes, children's songs, and in a way that I've done it for many years in a sort of Hendrixy way, and see if you can guess which song it is. And I'll do the rhythm guitar, and then I'll play the melody so you can guess what it is, and I'll show you some cool solo ideas because it is in the key of E major. And there's a thing I love doing in major keys, and that's playing minor over major, because you get a kind of bluesy feeling over the major chord. So I'll add a little bit of that into the whatever I'm gonna play as a solo. So trick, technique, or lick of the week. Hey, it's Monday. Time for Lick of the Week. This one is a great exercise for finger picking, for building speed, and creating some interesting ideas for both rhythm and lead playing. And you can pick whatever notes you want to play depending on the key, scales, whatever your ideas are. I'm just going to show you a variation of a lick that I did on my second solo album, Skeleton, way back in '95. And the cool thing about it is I changed the key in the middle, so that also helps the finger positions. And it's a bit tricky when you start getting up to speed, but start slow, practice to a click track and or a metronome, and then just build it up and take your time with it until every note is clean. So don't stress with it just to get the speed going. And basically it's this. And that's with the key change and played slow. When it's up to speed, it sounds more like. that's the vibe I'm going for with it. So, but it's really good for practicing practicing to get the speed up with the picking. And I'm gonna show you 2 examples of it in a slower speed and a faster speed to a click track. And so whatever notes you want to use, it's up to you. This is the lick from the Skeleton album. I don't even remember which song it is. I'll find it out. So a good practice for this week, and here it comes in a slow and a fast tempo to click track. Hey, it's Monday, time for Lick of the Week. This one is not so much a lick, but it can be used as a lick, but it's a very cool technique and a very good way to practice. One thing we all struggle with from the start and maybe through the whole career is bending and bending to the correct notes. And this is it's more of an exercise, but it's also a really beautiful thing you can use inside of solos. So basically, you start on one note, and normally you would bend it a half note or a whole note, or longer if needed. But the way I'm showing it to you now is you start on a note and you slide to a note and bend as you're sliding. So basically I'm actually going, but I'm bending as I'm sliding it. And you can create some really cool riffs for songwriting and for soloing by sliding and bending notes. So practice starting on a note and deciding where you want to go, and bend it as you're sliding and hitting the note as clean as possible. good practice, and you can create a lot of cool ideas from this. So, see you in a week again. Don't forget to subscribe. Please share, spread the links, and let's build this place and keep having fun. Thank you for all the comments, all the beautiful emails and stuff, and a lot more coming. I got some Christmas specials coming up. I'm creating a bunch of stuff right now. So, see you in a week with Lick of the Week. Ciao. Hey, it's Monday. Of course, it's Lick of the Week. But this week, we're going to talk about how you learn the basics of rhythm playing, which is also actually the foundation of really good lead playing, because the more you understand about playing rhythm and all the kinds of grooves there are, and to play in the pocket, to play with the other musicians, to be inside of a song, the better your solos are going to be also. So I started out learning how to play rhythm when I was very young, for years before I even knew that you could play a solo. So my first band, I was basically the guy playing that kind of stuff. And it took me a long time before I even started to play solos, and I think this is also the foundation for most of the work that I do as a session player or a touring musician. Because if you look at a song, the solo, if there's even a solo, is a very, very, very small part of the song. It's everything else that makes a song great, even though a solo can be fantastic, of course. But there's like 5-10% of the people who will even notice a solo. So learn how to play rhythm before you get into all the crazy solo playing. So a very simple and smart way of starting the basics of rhythm is to understand that your right hand, if you're right-handed like me, otherwise it's the left hand for you other people. But in this case, the right hand for me is the drummer. So it doesn't matter what I play here. If I mute all the strings, nothing comes out. So for me, it's the drummer, it's the right hand. This guy has to be the driving force in everything you do, because it's not so much the notes you play, but the groove in how you play them. So if I mute all the strings and I think of this as a drummer and I just add little small notes, it's gonna sound funky if the drummer gets the beat right. Something like this. So what I'm playing in my left hand is not a lot, it's just adding a little. But it's this guy who's doing all the work. So I've done a technique when I started, a practice technique, which is basically this. The low E and A string are the bass drum of a drummer, and the two high strings are the snare drum, and the two strings in the middle is the hi-hat. So what I'm doing is I'm playing a drum beat with just my right hand, muting the strings, and it goes slowly like this. So if you think of a drummer going on a hi-hat and boom, buff, boom, buff, that's simple. So you're playing all of the parts of a drummer in your right hand. Make sure it's very loose and. So first example is exactly what I showed you right now, and it goes something like this. And like you heard, I'm only muting the strings. No notes, it's just the right hand. So for the second example, we add the bass drum and the snare drum. And a good tip, if you have a little studio at home, whatever it is, even an iPhone, whatever you can record on, if you can program a beat, is to record yourself. And especially if you have a computer where you can look at the recording, so you can actually see where you hit the bass drum and snare drum with your hand. If you're a little before, if you're after, or if you're on it. Because that's a whole different story. If you're a little before, you're pushing the song. If you're a little behind, you make it groovy. Sort of the old West Coast Toto kind of music where you go. You want it to feel laid back. And then there's maybe more energized stuff where you maybe want to push a little bit, stay on the beat, or push it a little bit to drive the energy. So it really comes down to fine practicing when you learn how to do this. But this is learning how to crawl before you walk, so you can slowly start to run and then run faster with everything you do. But if you don't learn the foundation of this, it's going to be really hard for you to become any kind of working musician, touring, being good in a band, doing studio work or anything. So the next one here is I add the bass drum with a note, and I'm using my thumb. That's how I play. And I'm just using, it's sort of a G I'm playing here. So for me, the snare drum are on the top high strings. So it goes something like this. So the third one, we're gonna make it a little bit more tricky. It's still the same tempo and everything. We're just gonna add some notes to what we do. You can learn whatever notes I play here, or you can come up with all your own patterns. It's the basic concept of what I'm teaching you here that's important, not exactly the notes that I play. So I add a few more notes, and I change the beat of the drums a little bit. So I also program the drums to match what I'm doing, so I can practice them. And again, if possible, record them and check where you hit all the notes. You need to build this over a longer time, because first of all, you need to build the right hand into a really groovy drummer. Then you need to figure out a way how to add the notes in your left hand, so whatever style you're playing, because this is even the basic concept for hard rock, heavy metal, any style, jazz, blues, whatever it is. The two hands need to work together, and they need to have a groove together. So this one, it's a little bit more tricky, and it goes like this. Okay, the last one is definitely more complicated. Something I often use to sort of warm up if I'm playing live shows, which of course we can't do this year. But even for sessions and stuff, this is typically something I would sit and play. And I've done this little lick for years, and I actually plan to record a song someday out of this little riff. But it's a great technique in having the drummer going. I slide a little bit between the notes. I use pull-offs. I add a few chords. So there's a lot of small techniques inside of something that sounds pretty simple. And it goes slowly like this. So up tempo, it's more like. A lot of times I build sort of a funky blues out of this, but I change it around with jazzier and rockier, almost Jimi Hendrixy kind of ideas around it. Something like this. Here's the last one, and again, it's not the notes that I play, it's more the idea of the drummer adding some cool notes, adding some chords, the ghost notes, pull-offs, anything. I even use some open strings. This week, it's all about learning how to crawl before you walk, before you run. Start practicing rhythm, because that's where music really lives. And see you in a week for another lick of the week. Don't forget to subscribe down there. Okay, see you soon. Ciao. Hello, my friends. It's Monday, so of course it's Lick of the Week. And this time I'm gonna show you a lick that's based on very much the way that I think outside the maybe more traditional box of playing the pentatonic scale and stepping a little bit outside of the traditional scale playing or traditional licks playing. It's based on ideas I've had for maybe 35 years, and it's just evolved into the way that I play. We all learn the typical pentatonic blues scale, and most of rock and roll and pop and whatever, it's based on that when you play a solo. I was always intrigued by the notes that are in between the traditional boxes, say of an E minor. Traditional four boxes that we usually play, you know, the pentatonic kind of. I started getting interested in the spaces in between these boxes, because there are a lot of cool notes and ways to get to them that go a little outside of the traditional ones. I noticed with my playing that I tended to get stuck in very typical, almost cliche kind of bluesy licks. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the base of rock and roll and most solo playing. But in my head, I heard notes that to me felt more beautiful, even over just a basic E minor chord. I heard these notes, minor sevens, nines, and I'm not a trained musician in theory. I didn't study theory and reading and all of that. So for me, it's just what I feel and what I hear. So in the search for all of this, I came up with a lot of small concepts, and you start putting them together, you tie them together. I like sliding in and out of notes. I like string skipping, and just there's so many beautiful things you can play that are different outside of the, like I said, traditional blues kind of scales. So this lick is very much the technique and style that I use for how I would think. And again, it's just over an E minor chord, and it goes something like this. So what I'm doing is I'm sliding in and out of the licks that I'm playing. I use octaves, and when I change the strings, I slide on the next section of everything I do. And it's, again, like I say in every video, it's not exactly the notes that I play that you should pay attention to. If somebody asked me to play a solo and it's just an E minor chord going like this, the difference between a more bluesy pentatonic kind of solo and the way I think it would sound something like this. More pentatonic, but the way I would play it would probably be more something like this. sort of jumping around, string skipping, sliding, and it's just a different language over the same chord. And for me, it's I find more interesting notes than getting stuck in the typical rock and roll bluesy stuff, which I also play in certain songs where it's needed. If I'm recording on a AC/DC kind of song, it doesn't really fit to be sort of out of the box. It sometimes, if it's AC/DC, CC Top kind of thing, it needs to have the bluesy simple roots and all of that, which I also love. This lick of the week is more an idea of stepping a little outside the traditional boxes over a simple minor chord. So as always, come up with your own patterns, the notes you hear in your head, and the rhythmic way of playing them. And hope you find some inspiration in this. And I'll see you in a week with another lick of the week. And before that, I got some other cool stuff that I'm about to finish. So please hit the subscribe button and share and spread the links and get into the Christmas spirit, because we need it big time this year. And I'll see you in a week for Lick of the Week. Ciao. Hello, it's Monday, so of course it's Lick of the Week. And this week I'm gonna show you a couple of short licks, a little goodie bag of tricks that maybe you will find useful. The first one, I really haven't seen anyone else do this one. And if you can find anyone that's done it and probably do it better and cooler, please share any links in the comments below. I did it by accident some 25 years ago, and it's not all the time you can find a good place to use it in a song or anything, but it's pretty simple, but it sounds really cool. Just hit a harmonic. In this case, on the seventh fret on the G string. When I hit it, I grab the string and I slide, so I bring the harmonic with me. So you hit the harmonic and you tap down on the string and slide away with it. The next one, it's a basic tool that you can apply to a lot of ideas for songwriting, for rhythm playing, and for lead playing. And I'll do this. I'll do it simple over 3 chords. The chords are. So what I do is I play the octave and the 5th, and when I land on the 5th, I change finger and I slide on that string. And I go up to the high octave. So it goes. So if you do that and you follow the chords, it's a really cool flowing kind of lick that's cool for songwriting, and if you use the same technique with, like I showed you last week, more of the inside of solos and stuff, it's beautiful, and it's flowing in a different way. So if I play and again, it's you can add harmonies to this, and if you come up with something like, and then you add harmonies to it, and you play the same technique but with the harmony, with the 2 or 3 part, it sounds beautiful. So it's just I continue from last week with licks and tricks that are sort of outside the traditional boxes. Okay, the next one is it's a little fusion jazzy way of playing in and out of the pentatonic scale. In this case, let's use an E like I normally do, like you would normally play it. But what I do is I use a half note down, or in some cases I play a half note above it, and you can come up with some really cool sounding, it's almost fusion like, but it sort of shakes the whole pentatonic tone structure. Sort of, again, play a little in and out of boxes. Don't pay attention to exactly the riffs that I'm playing. I'm always nagging about this. So come up with your own ideas. And it doesn't matter if you're in a major or minor key or wherever you are. Try to sneak in a half note above or below and see what happens. There's an old saying that, there are no bad notes, because it's all about what you play after. So if you accidentally hit what's maybe not a note inside of the scale, don't freak out, because people are going to know you played the bad notes if you play live. Stay on the note and bend it to the right note, or do something that, save yourself by making it cool. So let's say you're in the key of E major, and you accidentally hit the minor third. Well, instead of looking like you really made a mistake, stay on it and bend it a half note up to the major, and like own the moment. No one's gonna know if it was a mistake or something you did on purpose. So the last one for today is a bending technique that I use a lot, and I call it the moonwalk bending, after Michael Jackson's way of moonwalking, the way it looked like he walked backwards. I bend within the licks, and sometimes you can get a feeling like the lick is going backwards. So it goes something like this. So I step a little outside of the traditional blues box by playing a chromatic outside of the. But again, if it's an E major chord, and I love this technique because you can actually do licks that start high up and go down, and it feels like the lick is almost going up, but the bending is going backwards. So it creates a kind of freaky feeling for the ears in. It's almost Jeff Beck style of playing. He uses the wang bar, the tremolo bar, to bend almost like you're using a slide. But I do a lot of small bending combined with what I've shown you before, the kind of sliding in and out of notes. And I love if you're playing like E major. That you can actually use the minor third. And it's also a very Jeff Beckish kind of sound, but you play the minor and you bend it up to the major. Simple ideas that can be very useful. Hey, it's Monday, so time for Lick of the Week. This time I'm gonna show you a practice technique and a smart way of thinking when you build solos. So this is a two-part adventure into the things with strings. The first one is a practice technique which is good for string skipping and understanding positions on the neck, and also there's a sliding technique inside, and it's just playing a root note and an octave, but then finding another place for the same notes, an octave up or below, or in a different position. So the chords I'm using for this are so what you do is you play and you find the next position and you go down to the B, half note down, And this is when you start building up speed around this, do any chord changes you can think of that are tricky, and learn how to quickly understand where you have octave positions of the chords you're playing. And you can even do it as a shuffle. And it's a great way of a lot of times when I do a session or play live, and you end on the last chord of a chorus or the pre-chorus, a good trick is to in the last part, say in the pre-chorus right before a chorus hits, and say you land on an A chord and you slide the chord up an octave just to bring a little energy before you kick into the chorus. So let's say that the pre-chorus goes, so you bring it up an octave just for that. And when you're playing live, but sometimes it's just in that moment you hear that you want to go up an octave, because it's for some reason it's just an impulse. It feels right. Knowing where all the octaves are because chords sound so different depending on where you play them. So it's the same sus chord, but depending on where I play it, you can actually add an extra note, and the strings are thinner or thicker, so they're gonna sound different. So it's a great practice for that kind of thing. Okay, so the second part of this today is something that is, for me, it's sort of the key to playing better solos. Most of the time we figure out if we're gonna play a solo, okay, it's in I always use E minor as an example because it's easier. So if I play something like this, a chord structure in E minor, just an E, C, G, D kind of chord progression, very basic, simple. A lot of times we think, okay, it's an E minor solo. So on top of that, we can use the cliche kind of thinking, and it's nothing wrong with, depending on the vibe we're going for, whatever attitude and style we're looking for, we can just play in sort of the pentatonic E kind of way. There's nothing wrong with it at all. One thing that I learned many years ago was to look at each chord and find out where the root notes, and in my opinion, notes that I thought were cool or beautiful. I remember listening to Gary Moore early on, and he seemed to always play over each chord, and his solos were melodies and licks that sort of followed the chords instead of staying in a scale. So in this case, if you play in E minor, root notes that are based around the chord you're playing. You go to a C major. You take the C note and you go, which is like a +5 from the. And if you think of those all of a sudden your notes are gonna follow G major, D major. So when I play a solo over something, I figure out the chords, write them down, or just learn the chords that you're going to play over, and play towards every chord. Play what fits every chord, even if the key in this case is E minor, and you're okay with a lot of the box playing in the pentatonic, or again stepping a little inside and outside. But it just fits better with the song when you play over each chord. So the difference would be something like this. You can sort of hear the chords in your head, even though I'm not playing them, because I play over each chord. I think of the C and play things that fit the C chord. I go to a G. I know I'm in the E minor, so I know where I'm safe, but I know where the little difference from so from the E, I know where each chord goes. It just makes the solos fit the song better. And again, try experimenting. If you have your home studio or something, try to write simple patterns of 3-4 chords and change them around a little bit. Change the key. Go from minor to major. Maybe do a. A major chord when you get back, so you have to think of you have to learn how to play over key changes, make solos sound much more professional inside of the music, and you don't have to play a lot of notes for it to make sense, because the notes you're playing land more beautiful. There's a million theories around what you can play over any chord, what notes will sound good or not. I spent years when I was a kid just recording on my little 4-track studio. I would record just one chord for maybe 40 minutes. I would just have a on a keyboard or on a guitar, and I would just lie down on my bed and close my eyes, and I would listen for notes that I felt were beautiful inside a simple chord. And every time I found a note that it fits the scale, but I didn't like the sound of it, I started practice those notes away from my playing. Of course, this is how I hear music and how I heard it as a kid. It's the reason why I don't think of, okay, here's a song and it's a Mitsubishi scale in a 5/8 tempo over a whatever. It's I don't think in theory like that. I see it like the movie Matrix, where all the green dots are flying around. That's how I think of. As soon as somebody plays me, again, I'll just use an E chord. I don't think of a pentatonic scale. I think of all the little dots everywhere that to me fit that chord. And I start connecting them depending on the style of the music, how long a solo is, and the attitude that the song requires. So for me, an E chord is this. It's just notes everywhere, little dots in my head over that one chord. So I have all of these little dots to combine into whatever I'm hearing, depending on the attitude. Of course, it's 47 years of playing guitar, so you build your own matrix in your head, and that's the way it's going to work. But it creates a different kind of thinking instead of learning just the scales and then you play the scales and you listen to licks on YouTube and you learn those licks and start creating your own inner imagination and universe of ideas, and discover who you are as a musician, and you're gonna find your own voice, which is gonna be much more interesting for your growing as an artist and for the people listening to what you do. So have fun, and I will see you in a week again. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe so we can build this family of string loving nutcases. See you soon. Bye. Hey, it's Monday, so of course it's time for Lick of the Week. And it's almost the last one for this year because we're only a couple of days away from Christmas. And I want to start with thanking all of you that have subscribed. We passed 1,000 and kept going, which is amazing. For me, I'm building this YouTube channel slowly. My goal is during next year, it's going to be up and running with more videos every week and some pretty cool things coming. So it's, again, I can't thank you enough. And for all of you that haven't subscribed, please hit the button and the bell and everything underneath and join in, because it's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming. I'm going to do interviews with some pretty famous people. I'm doing little mini documentaries about some of the cool albums that I worked on and stuff. So for today, I'm going to show you something that is one of the most important practice techniques that I've used in my life, and something that I've taught a lot of people, and it's extremely helpful. No matter if you want to be a session player or if you want to play in a band or whatever you do, it's something that I've noticed during my whole life that a lot of even famous people have trouble doing this. So it's really the foundation of understanding rhythm. And basically what I do is I'll put a straight drum beat, and what you should do is you come up with 3 or 4 completely different riffs or songs short ideas, only a couple of bars each. And the trick is to play the first one tight from the first note to the last one. And when you go over to the next one, it should sound like you have sampled on a keyboard the riffs. So you cannot make the last part of one section a little sloppy and the beginning of the next one a little sloppy. It needs to sound like you're really just hitting a key on the keyboard and it goes straight into the next song. And the more of these you can come up with different patterns and grooves, you go from a shuffle to a straight to a double tempo, whatever, the better it is. So what I'm doing today is it's going to be 4 different riffs from a kind of basic funky to a maybe more CC Top kind of. And from that, I'm going into a shuffle. And the last one, I'm doing more of a riff, so you get into single strings. And the trick is to play them like there's no space in between. I came up with 4 different patterns and just to a little drum beat, and it goes something like this. Try it in a slower tempo and do it faster and faster. Try to come up with more complicated stuff the more you feel good about doing this. Record yourself if you can, so you really can listen to if it sounds like it's going directly from one thing to the other one without being a little blurry in between. I'll be back after Christmas, meaning next Monday, with the last one for this year. And again, thank you for a fun start of this YouTube channel. And let's make next year better for everything on this planet. Let's hope that we get this horrible pandemic out of the way, that we get life back to normal, and that we can start rebuilding everything as much as we can back to the life we had. So I wish you all a fantastic Christmas, and I'll see you in a week. Ciao. Happy New Year. Let's kickstart 2021 into a happier year than last year was. And of course, time to get back to Lick of the Week. But there's also a lot of other fun stuff happening here on my YouTube channel. I started from the archives, where I'm digging deep into my private old archives of things that has, for the most part, never been released or is very rarely seen. So there's some fun stuff coming. The first one was a long interview with my old friend Michael Lando, in my opinion the greatest guitar player ever walked this planet. Next up is an interview from 1993 with Steve Porcaro from Toto. A lot is going on. This year is gonna be extremely exciting. I have so much cool stuff. Of course, it's also the 30th anniversary of my Radioactive project. So I'm working on a new album that is coming along great, and I'm also finishing finally the big documentary, which is really cool. So a lot of things happening with that. This channel is growing fast, and I can't thank you enough. So all of you other people, please hit subscribe and join the party. So let's start this by getting back into lick of the week. This time, it's a simple but pretty cool technique that you can use for songwriting, for rhythm playing, for solos and additional effects in arranging and everything. And it's very simple. I basically just use a slapback delay, but the level of the delay is almost at the same level as the note that I play. So I only use one delay. It doesn't go bum 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 bum. It's just a pop up. I like this technique for a lot of ideas, and I'm just gonna show you a couple of simple tricks, simple ideas how you can use it. And in this case, I have a tempo of 109 BPM, and I've set the delay that I use, which is an Echo Boy from Soundtoys plugin. It's a really good one. So it automatically is set in tempo with a 16th note. So let's dig into it. Just a couple of cool ideas how you can use delays. If you have a plugin that syncs up with your recording system, it's always smart to set it to the tempo of the song. And if you don't have that, if you use a rack or a pedal or anything, it's very easy to find out what the tempo is and learn how to set it as close as possible to the tempo, so you get it perfect in sync. So let's go. So for this first idea, I've added a little rhythm guitar. That's very simple. It just goes like this. And with a drum beat. So on top of that, I'm gonna play a couple of simple ideas to show you what you can do with an additional guitar on top of a basic rhythm section. And it goes something like this. Okay, the next one, it sounds very easy, but it's actually really hard. It's a good way of practicing to get tighter with your, especially your right hand, to really feel the beat. In this case, it's just that straight drum beat, 109 BPMs. But you need to pay attention. You need to feel the groove of the song, or the delay is just gonna start sounding bad. So I just start on an open string, add a few notes, and play with this. As I always say, the notes doesn't matter; it's the technique. So this is a very good practice. Just put drum beats on different tempos, and practice this, because it really helps you to focus on listening to the drums and the beat and staying very, very tight. So simple thing, but it goes like this. Okay, the next one is just a simple way of showing how you can use it for rhythm guitars, for songwriting. Again, it's the same tempo, just one bounce, slapback delay, but it adds a cool flavor to rhythm guitars, and you can come up with some pretty interesting songwriting ideas when you add delays in tempo. So, simple idea goes like this. Okay, this last one is to show you a country music idea. A lot of country guitar players, amazing players, use the slapback delay. They are fast enough without it. For me, it makes me sound like I actually can play country, and I really can't. I've done some country albums, some country sessions, and I love the music, but um, it's not my natural style. But it's just me goofing around in a higher tempo, 152 BPMs, and just to show you again the techniques. You come up with your own thing to play, but here we go. That's it for this week. Next week, I'll be back with another lick of the week. In a day or two, you'll get the Steve Picard interview from the archives, and I'm working on a whole bunch of cool things. So please subscribe, stay tuned, share and spread the links to this YouTube channel, and let's make sure we make this year creative, strong, positive one together. And thanks for all the messages and emails and comments and stuff. Keep them coming, and I'll see you very soon. Ciao.